Okay, so our brains process information like computers. And you often hear that a computer has a central processing unit or a CPU. Well, our brains are like processing units for ideas. And so when it comes to summarizing a text, one way to process the information, the words and the sentences and the paragraphs, is to think about it from the top down. Usually when we open a text, we concentrate on each word and try to build meaning up from the bottom, which is fine. But another way to do it is to look at the overall organization of the whole text. Think about the headings and the pictures and the organization of the text. So this person is looking out over the top of a city from a window up top at the top of a building. Um, and she might see something like this. Two huge old towers in the middle, a lot of buildings that have similar architecture. The buildings are close. There's some more modern looking buildings here. There's a mountain range. So she's getting a overall view. She's seeing the whole organization of the city at once. We can do the same thing with a text. And the way we do that is to use a visual organization of the text, more like a picture or a graph. And we can use things called graphic organizers to help us organize a text and see it from the top down. Graphic organizers are visual illustrations of verbal statements, and this PowerPoint is going to be about how to use those. They help us understand the text better. They show at a glance the key parts of the whole and how they relate. This is really important to know if we're going to summarize a text. They work as mechanisms for identifying, selecting, and focusing on important elements at the expense of trivia. So trivia means like unimportant details. When that person was looking out over the top of that city, she saw all the important details. She didn't see some of the more, some of the less important details. Like if she was going to tell somebody about that city, and she only had 1 minute to tell them, she might tell them things that she saw from looking out over the top of the building and seeing the city all laid out underneath her, instead of focusing on trivia or details. So I'm going to take you now through some of the graphic organizers that'll help you um, conceptualize a text. So first I'd like to give you some examples on why graphic organizers work. So if there was an organization and I wanted to tell you about the organization, it might take a long time. I would have to say, okay, this organization has a president. The president does this, this, and this. Under the president are two vice presidents. They do this, this, and this. Under each vice president is, um, you know, administrative assistant. It might take me a long time. Instead, I could just show you that. Another example, a process. Mitosis is how cells turn into other cells. It's like a biological concept. It would take a long time to explain mitosis when I could just do this and show you the process in a picture. Say you have a company and it's been losing sales, been losing money, and you could explain to your coworkers uh, why this happened, or you could just show them in a picture. So we're going to use this concept to figure out what the key parts of a text are. Because any text, it might look like a bunch of words, and it is a bunch of words, but it's also different parts, different main points that we can pull out. So what you do to use these, and I'm about to show you the ones that I have for you, the graphic organizers I have for you. As you're reading a text, you look back and forth between what you're reading and this list, of graphic organizers, and you kind of think, okay, which one of these is going to contain my text? Which one can I use to put my text into? Some will work better than others. Sometimes a couple of them will work. Sometimes you might have to make up your own. And then you just plug the information from your text into the organizer. Pretty soon you'll be able to see the overall structure of the text. This structure will represent the main ideas that the author wants the reader to come away with. Because that's what a summary is. It's us finding out the parts of the whole that the author um, thinks are important, not the little details. So here's the first one. It's a spider map. You can see you'd put the you'd put the topic or the concept of the theme in the middle, and then each main idea gets its own leg, and then each little detail gets its own. Not every detail, but some of the more important examples. And then there's these frame questions that go along with every organizer, like what's the idea, what are its attributes, what are its functions. And here are some examples of text that we would use the spider map for. Things, processes, concepts. Here's the next graphic organizer, the chain of events. This happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. This will help you see the overall structure of a text. If you're describing the life stages of something or steps in a procedure. Here's another one, the continuum scale. Used for timelines or degrees of something or rating scales from low to high. The compare contrast matrix, some texts, what they do is they just spend the whole text comparing and contrasting things. Here's some signal words to look for with this compare contrast text often have these words in them. You might want to use the problem solution outline. This part talks all about the problem. This part talks about the attempted solution and the results and then what happened at the end. And here's some signal words to look for in that. Sometimes you might find a text that's just the problem and never has a solution. You might just want to use the first part, maybe the second part, but not this part. Like I said, um, sometimes it's okay to come up with your own organizer, one that's not one that I'm showing you here. The point is to be able to see the overall structure. Whatever helps you do that is fine. Network tree, this is one that gets used a lot, and it's used for a lot of different things. Um, Causes of something, this is the thing, and then these are the causes, and gets down to the little things. A hierarchy or procedures. So that one can get used for a lot of things. The human interaction outline. So if there's two groups of people, what happens when they mix? Or two individual people, what happens when they mix? Here's another one, the fishbone. This one gets used a lot too. Why did something happen? Something happened. Why did it happen? Here's some more signal words to use that you can look for in a text to see if it's a fishbone type text. And the last one is a cycle, like that mitosis cycle we looked at earlier. So as you're reading through a text, take this PowerPoint and have it handy and scroll through it to look at the different ones that I gave you and try to see which one you might be able to use to conceptualize your text from the top down. So how do you use these? Oop, typo. That should say graphic. It's missing an H. So the way you use these is you, like I said, pull up this PowerPoint and keep it handy as you read a text, okay? First thing you want to do is survey the text. So just scan it, skim it. Look at the title, the headings, and the pictures. Skim through the text. How are the concepts presented? A hierarchy, a timeline? Is it a compare and contrast type thing? Is this whole text explaining something? Asking questions such as these will help you figure out which organizer to use. Okay, after surveying, you represent the text. This means you start to think about what is the overall structure of this text. Come up with a mental model and see which organizer is the best fit. So now you're scrolling through the list of organizers, looking back at the text again to make sure it'll work with the organizer. Okay, so now you have a hypothesis about which organizer, or it might be two or three that might work. Now you go ahead and read it. You can finally read the text. Read to fill in gaps in your understanding. Read to clarify any questions that have come up. This is a stop-start process because you're comparing new info, the stuff you're reading, to your hypothesized representation, the graphic organizer or organizers that you chose. Okay, now that you've read it, fill in an organizer. Choose one of the organizers that you came up with during your hypothesis and go ahead and fill it in with the information from the text. You may even alter the organizer if you need to, or make up your own. And then finally, you can summarize. So construct paragraphs around the major parts of the graphic organizer. Time to write your own paragraphs. And you get those paragraphs by looking at the major parts of the organizer. So let's go back to one of these organizers to show you what I mean by that. In this cycle, you might write a paragraph around 1, 2, 3, and 4. In the fishbone, you might write a paragraph about the result, and then a paragraph about each of these causes. You know, these might each get a paragraph, and this might get several paragraphs, and then they might get paragraphs at the end. All right. Okay. Okay, here we are. Make sure you understand the text. Ask yourself, what was this text about? What did the writer say? And then say, did I get it right with this graphic organizer? Try to say the general theme to yourself. Also, reread to make sure that you really understand what the important parts are. Summarizing is challenging, so try seeing what a text looks like by using one of these graphic organizers. Because what happens is students can usually summarize a story. First this happened, then this happened, you know, like events in a story. But if it's not a story, students can have troubles. So the reason we have these organizers is to help students understand more abstract concepts like cause and effect, compare and contrast, and problem solution.